Good morning, Ajahn.
Hey, Luke.
How are you?
Good.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Buddha Loka Centre. And good morning to everyone online. My name's Luke. I've been thrust into the position of doing the announcements today. So this is my first time, so please be gentle with me. I'm sure Sri Juice will remind me if I forget anything. Thank you. Welcome this morning, and today's talk will be given by Ajahn Sādaro. So welcome, Ajahn. And first things first, we'll ask for the 5 precepts. Thank you.
Mayam Bante, Tisarnena Saha Pancha Silani Yachama, Dutiyampi Mayam Bante, Tisarnena Saha Pancha Silani Yachama, Tatiyampi Mayam Bante, Tisarnena Saha Pancha Silani Yachama.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Ti sarana gamanang nitidang. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kame sumichachara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musawada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Suramirayamajjapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Imani pancha sikkhapadani silena sukantinyanti silena bhoga sampada. Silena niputinyanti dasama silang viso taye. Okay, so now we'll just do some little bit of chanting, recollecting the qualities of the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vijjacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhammasaratissa tadeva manusanang Buddho Bhagavati Swagato Bhagavata Dhammo Sanditiko Akaliko Ehipasiko Opanayiko Bhajatang Vedidapo Vinyohiti Supatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Ujjupatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Nyayapatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Samicchipatipanno bhagavato sāvaka. Yadidang cattari purisa yugani hatta purisa pukkala esa bhagavato sāvaka sangho ahuneyo pahuneyo dakineyo anjali karaniyo anuttarang punyaketang lokasati. So we'll do the Metta Sutta. Yeah, we can do this in English. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, not busy with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be happy, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be happy. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to wrong views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami ito parang sakajang dhammo sota bodhi. Cool. Okay. Good morning, everyone. You're stuck with me again. So I think I gave a talk here 2 weeks ago. So you're stuck with me again. I before we start, I just want you to maybe just reflect on just one question and just kind of keep this in mind throughout the talk. Is just ask yourself this question: is like, have you been here before? Just kind of keep this in your, like, have you been here? Has this happened before? And so the reason I want to pose this question is because I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks, and I still don't have really good thoughts on it. So I'm going to ramble a lot today, unfortunately. But I wanted to think about this idea of immortality, beings that are immortal in some ways. And because I think immortality is such a cool idea. And why do I think that this is a cool idea? Well, if we think about it from a Buddhist perspective of what immortality might mean, if we take the idea of samsara seriously, then what this kind of assumes and what this entails is that in some way, we're immortal. We're immortal beings. We've been here for infinite time. We've had infinite lives. And so I wanted to kind of play around with this idea a little bit and, kind of ask some questions of well, what does it actually mean to be immortal? What does living infinite lives, what does that actually do to you? What does it mean what does this do to meaning and purpose in our lives? What does this do to a sense of identity of ourselves? So look, I really like these ideas. So if you don't like it, you're just going to have to deal with me for about for the next half an hour or so. But the way I wanted to approach this, and again, I've been thinking about this for a few weeks, is, okay, there's a lot in the Buddhist scriptures about, the beginningless samsara. But I wanted to look at it or think about it through this story by a writer called Jorge Luis Borges. I don't know if anybody's read any of Borges. Yeah, awesome. Well done. So Borges was an Argentinian writer, and he loved things like infinity. He loved paradox. He loved mirrors. He loved labyrinths. And so he wrote these just really dense and beautiful stories. And one of the stories that he wrote is a story called The Immortal. And I wanted to kind of think about this idea of samsara, maybe through this story. And look, I'm going to spoil it for you, but there's no way you can spoil a Borges story. You have to read it multiple times anyway. I don't know how many times I've read this story. I love it so much. So what we'll kind of do is think about this story, and I'll give a bit of a synopsis of it, and maybe kind of think about different ideas about meaning and meaninglessness, and identity and lack of identity, and memory and forgetting, and what it kind of actually means to have an infinite amount of lives, and what that actually does with you. Does that sound interesting? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. As long as I'm not the only one. As long as I'm not the only one that's kind of lost in this kind of, cool, I'm going to get lost in infinity and in immortality and all these kinds of things. So look, I'll give a basic synopsis of the story. It's the story of this person that goes into this bookshop buying a copy of Alexander Pope's The Iliad. And she gets the book, and then finds in the back of the book that there's this manuscript in the back of the book, and basically the story is what's written in this manuscript, and it's the story of this soldier in the time of the Emperor Diocletian, a Roman soldier. His name was Marcus Rufus. And basically, he was on campaign. Diocletian sent him off on campaign. So he was in Africa. And he was in Egypt. Sorry, and he was fighting. He done a successful campaign in Egypt, and one night in Thebes, there was this person came along, some sort of traveler, and he had this massive, like he had a massive wound, like a fatal wound. Came in very late night, and Rufus was kind of talking to him, and this traveler was basically said, I'm on the search for this this river that grants immortality, and near this river that grants immortality, there's a city of the immortals. And so, but then, in the night that this person, they died, and Rufus himself kind of got obsessed with this idea that there is a river of immortality and that there is a city of the immortals. So him and his kind of army set off to find this, and so went through Africa, through all the deserts to actually find it. Now, going through Africa and the deserts of Africa, basically, things get hard, and all of his army and all the mercenaries that he took with him, they started to mutiny, and so and eventually they wanted to kill him, and so he had to take off, and he kind of took off into the desert by himself. And as you do when you go into the desert and you're by yourself, you start to hallucinate and all these kinds of things, and you're wandering aimlessly in the desert. So he kind of wanders aimlessly, and then he kind of falls asleep, and then he wakes up. And he finds himself in this kind of cliff face with these little grottos or little caves, but he's tied up. He's got his hands tied behind his back, and he's in this kind of like cliff face in these grottos with these beings that are called, that Borges calls them, troglodytes. Now, the troglodytes are these basically these people, like they're humans, but they're these emaciated, like grey-skinned, like shaggy beard, like hair all over the place, beings that are just not responsive. They live off snakes. They just eat snakes when they need to, but they kind of don't move, or they don't say anything. They have no they seemingly have no language. They don't interact in it. So they don't even care that Rufus is there and tied up. But Rufus sees down the bottom of this kind of cliff, he sees this kind of polluted, muddy, terrible stream that's down the bottom. And he's been in the desert, so he's parched. So he kind of rolls down the hill. Obviously, rolling down a hill when you're tied up injures you, but he rolls down to the stream, and again, dirty, muddy, just terrible stream, and he drinks from it. And what usually happens when you drink from a terrible, muddy stream? You probably get some kind of poisoning. So he has this, again, falls asleep and has this kind of fever dream. But when he wakes up, eventually he kind of looks off into the distance and he actually sees this city that's up on top of this cliff, and he kind of thinks it's like, maybe this is the city of the immortals. And so he got a little bit of strength back, cuts his bonds or whatever, and wanders off towards this city. And now there's a few of I think it might have been 3 of the troglodytes that follow him. Again, they're not saying anything. They're just mute. They're not doing anything. They follow him to this city. And so Rufus starts to think, it's like, this seems like it's the city of the immortals, but there's no way to get into it. There's, this city, again, it's up on this kind of cliff. So the only way he can get into it, he finds this door that actually like leads downwards. And so he goes down, and he's in this chamber. And in this chamber, there's 9 doors. And basically he goes through one of the doors, but 8 of the doors actually lead back to the same spot. And it's only the 9th door, one of the doors, that actually leads through to the next chamber. And then, so basically he's in a labyrinth underground, and he's just like stuck in this labyrinth. And every chamber that he goes into has multiple doors that basically lead back to the same place, and one door gets him through. So basically he loses sense of time. He's in this labyrinth, just kind of wandering through. Then eventually he like sees a light, and actually realizes, like, I'm going to get out of this labyrinth now. And he gets out of the labyrinth, and it's like, well, this must be it. This must be the city of the immortals. And obviously, if you think about what the city of immortals is like, it must be this like great, phenomenal, beautiful place set up by like immortal beings. But like when he gets there and he gets into the city, like the city of the immortals is just like, it's chaos. It has all these stairs that go nowhere. It has these doors that just open into nothing. It has, places where floors should be. There's pits. There's all the architecture is just all wrong. It's all chaotic. And the soldier basically said this is kind of like a kind of chaotic hell. It's the worst kind of thing that you can think of. And so like everything goes nowhere in this city. Like there's no order to anything. There's no purpose. There's no meaning to a city. If you think about it, what a city is now, you have roads and you have buildings, and it's like it's all purposeful. It has a purpose. It goes somewhere. This place is just random chaos. And so he gets lost. He gets kind of lost in this city. And he wanders through this like random city. Again, staircases that go nowhere, doors that just open into nothing. Wanders aimlessly in this city of the immortals, and then eventually like finds his way out. And he finds a door out. And when he gets out the door, he actually sees one of the troglodytes sitting there. Again, remember they're these like grey, emaciated beings. And again, this troglodyte's not kind of saying anything, not doing anything, scratching things on the ground. They kind of look like writing, but it's not really writing, and he just keeps rubbing it out. And so, again, so Rufus now is like he still doesn't kind of realize. He just feels like he's been in this place for he's lost track of time of how long he was in the labyrinth and how long he was in the immortal city. And so he goes back with this troglodyte, and he starts to he calls the troglodyte Argos. Anyone know who Argos was? Who knows your Greek history? So Argos, the one he calls it is like, so Argos is the dog. Argos is the dog, is Ulysses' dog. It's in the Iliad. And it's a beautiful story about Argos the dog. He's like waits for his master for 20 years kind of thing. Ulysses goes off to the Trojan War, and the dog is the only one that recognizes him when Ulysses comes back to the city, and then he dies straight away. It's heartbreaking, but it's beautiful as well. But anyway, so he calls the troglodyte Argos. And again, so he tries to teach the troglodyte like language. He tries to teach him things, but it's just not responsive. You can think if you're trying to teach a dog or something like that, something you call it a name, it kind of recognizes and does these things. But this being just has no interest in him. And so anyway, he goes back with the other, and he goes back to the caves of the troglodytes. And anyway, he kind of just passes time there trying to teach Argos things, but again, just not interested. He's not responsive. None of the other troglodytes are responsive. They basically just don't move. There's one that is lying there on the ground, and birds have made nests all over him. They're just not responsive, not moving, all these kinds of things. But then one night, again, they're in the desert, and it starts to rain. And so it starts to rain, and the troglodytes actually, they start to come alive with the rain. Something different has happened. And then, the Rufus basically says to Argos, he's like, Argos, why is everybody, everybody's coming up, and the troglodyte goes like, Argos, Ulysses' dog, the dog on the dung heap. And so Rufus, the soldier, says to him, it's like, well, do you know Homer? Do you know Homer? Do you know the Iliad? What kind of Greek? And he's like, I don't really remember. I don't really know. I can only, I haven't looked at it in 1,100 years. And the last time I looked at it was when I wrote it. And so this troglodyte is Homer. He's like, again, this is the time that Rufus has realized, these are the immortals. The troglodytes, these beings that don't do or say anything, and they're just meaningless. They're the immortals. And so he starts to kind of realize that, he's actually in the city of the immortals with the troglodytes. And so, again, just starts to pass his time there, because he now realizes that the stream that he drank from was the stream of immortality. That murky, yucky stream was the stream of immortality. And so anyway, he spends time there, and then and starts to turn into that kind of troglodyte. But then he kind of realizes that maybe with another, rainstorm or something, it's like, if there's a stream that gives immortality, there must be a stream that gives mortality or takes that away. And so with that, again, they're all, they don't do anything, but once they realize that they can get out of immortality, they actually all start to move, and they all start to take off, and they start to move through, basically they start to move through time. And so this being that was kind of Rufus goes off with Homer for a while, and but then they eventually just kind of part ways. But he does all these things. He fights in these wars. He fights in wars, but he doesn't remember who he fought for. He doesn't remember what side he was on. He writes all these pieces of literature, but he doesn't remember if he just read them or he wrote them. So he wanders through time, but he doesn't remember anything about it. It all kind of blurs together. Again, he fights wars, but he doesn't remember what side he was on, all these kinds of things. And so eventually he was on a ship that was going to, I can't remember where it was going, but he ends up like marooned in Eritrea. And he gets like shipwrecked. And he goes and drinks from this stream. And then he gets scratched by a rose, and he starts to feel pain for the first time in eternity. Starts to feel pain again. He's like, no, I've realized I've drunk from the stream. I'm mortal again. And that was the only time everything came alive to him after that. Everything was, everything, he basically said it was the only night that I ever got like a solid sleep, and starting to realize that he's now mortal again. Everything basically started to develop a kind of meaning again. And so anyway, there's this kind of, in some ways the story sort of ends there. There's this really nice like epilogue kind of thing of it, where he basically says, actually, I don't know if this story is true or not, because I can't really remember. It's like I'm kind of mixing Homer's words up with my own. I don't really know if this thing is true or not. And he has this like really nice thing where he concludes is like, I have been Homer, and soon, like Ulysses, I shall be nobody. And if anybody knows the story of Ulysses, he was nobody with the Cyclopses. And soon I shall be all men, I shall be dead. And so, but he doesn't really know. He's like everything in the story is kind of all blurred up. So it's an awesome story. You know the premise of it now, but like go and read it. It's so good. And so, what we can maybe like think from this kind of story, we might think immortality is this great thing. And like, it seems like it would be cool to live forever. Yeah. But like in this, what it's saying is like immortality doesn't elevate you. It basically makes everything meaningless, makes everything repetitive. It erodes all kind of meaning from any action, because you've done everything. You start to realize you become everyone. You become every kind of human being that there is. Like you become that individual. So, all things become possible if things are infinite. So every possibility, every kind of life that's there is possible in infinity. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah. So obviously, now again, trying to look at this kind of idea through, again, it's a cool story, but how can we maybe like think about it from like from a Buddhist perspective? And this is where I think the idea of like samsara comes into it. Again, whether this idea with samsara, it's this we think about samsara as a cycle of birth and death. That we've been here since beginningless time, and that we've moved through different realms of existence and all these kinds of things. And actually, but if we kind of look at what samsara means, it also means like wandering on and on. And so I think there's this kind of nice parallel there in this story, of that, like the immortals, they're just people that are just kind of like wandering on. They have no meaning, they have no kind of purpose at all. They're just wandering, and they're just like wandering aimlessly, and then they kind of like they build this city, and the city, like it's just kind of chaos. It doesn't really have a purpose. It doesn't really, so if they're there for infinite time, all kind of meaning that you have is eroded. Any kind of thing that you would do that would have a purpose just doesn't have a purpose anymore. So what are you left with? Like chaos in this way. So this is like, I think this is like, so Borges plays with this like really cool idea all the time, like of mathematical infinity. and what mathematical infinity means. And in mathematical infinity, kind of what it means is that, like, if things are infinite, like this is terrifying. It's not something that seems cool. It's like, it's actually terrifying because everything gets like eroded in the infinite. So and this idea, like if we live long enough, or if we live many, many lives, you do everything, you become everything. You are everyone, every kind of life, you have it. So for me, it's this kind of idea about like what samsara like could be. You've led every possible life. You know, so who's heard stories of like, let's call them monks. let's say monks are basically saying, you know, in my past life I was this, and you get like impressed by it. I was a prince in my past life. Who's heard monks talk about that? You're like, wow, you were a prince, you were something. Oh, or it's like I was Brahma or something. And it's like, oh wow, that's impressive. It's not. If we take samsara seriously, you have all been these things. You've been a prince. You've been Brahma. If it's infinite possible time, you have been all these things. You've been animals. You've been princes. You've been gods. You've been all these different things. It's all happened to you. It's all happened before, and you just kind of forget. You've been all these things. And also in an infinite timeline, anything will happen. So in an infinite timeline, the Iliad and the Odyssey has to be written. And in an infinite timeline and infinite possibilities, you will be the one that writes the Iliad and the Odyssey. You will become Homer in some point. Because it's infinite. It's an infinite time frame. So this idea that, I'm privileged because I was in past lives, I was a prince and, I was this great king of Thailand or whatever the hell it was. It's like, it's not that special because it's happened to each and every one of you if you really take samsara seriously. Yeah? Does that make sense? It's kind of amazing. So there's this, so now I've kind of like, I've rambled on for a very long time, but again, I want to kind of think about this a little bit more because again, I have a lot of notes here and I could just think about this stuff forever and I could go on about it forever kind of thing. So basically I would be immortal in my speech and I just keep going on. So like, does anybody have any ideas about like, well, what, when we think about like Rufus, when he tries to go to the immortal city, like what do you kind of think about from a Buddhist perspective? What would you think about when he moves into like the labyrinth? What is something like, remember the labyrinth? The labyrinth was basically you went in, it's this kind of in a chamber, 9 doors. 8 of those doors like just lead back to the same point. Only one of them gets him through. And again, he's moving through a labyrinth like this, just in limitless doors and like in a limitless labyrinth. Basically, he's in the dark. Like, what does that sort of like, what do you think that represents from a Buddhist perspective? Yeah. The mind? Yeah. Why do you say that it represents the mind? Yep. So whatever you imagine, so the mind and different kinds of thoughts that we have is basically a kind of labyrinth. And so does that labyrinth lead somewhere or does it lead nowhere? Can you get through? Can you get through this thing? Just basically leads nowhere. So it's like a kind of darkness that like leads nowhere. Anyone else have any ideas about what it could be? Again, all these are right. This is the cool thing about Borges is like it's all interpretively right in some kind of way. Anyone else have any thoughts? Leads to hell, it could be something about like the darker realms. Yeah, you're gonna, yeah. Yep. 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 So it's, like we're kind of wandering. We're wandering through aimlessly, and we don't know where we're going. And we're just going through doors, and it's like just kind of leads back to the same place, and it's in a kind of darkness. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? Sorry? Knowing how to, so what do you mean by knowing how to change? Oh, not knowing, sorry, yeah. Yep. 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 Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, that's a cool idea of like, wanting something to change, but don't really know how to do it. And you're kind of stuck in something. Again, remember, he's looking for the city of the immortals and he's stuck in this labyrinth and he wants to get there, but like he just kind of keeps doing the same thing, going back to the same place. So this, again, all these are cool ideas, but then what do we kind of think about, like, what do we kind of think about the actual city of the immortals themselves? Again, it was this chaotic place that, like, nothing made any sense. So he emerges into this city where, again, stairs lead nowhere, doors open into nothing. Like, so what do we think about the city? Yeah?
I'm wondering if he's, in that sense, we're trying to imagine the city
Mm.
through our very three-dimensional thinking.
Yep.
So we're stuck in this kind of, these doors that we rotate through, and
Yep.
we all know our kind of patterns of life.
Yep.
It's like, oh, I know this pattern again, I know these thoughts.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm just what popped up for me when you said that was that's a different paradigm. That's kind of a different. It's like we have to switch.
Yep.
And I guess when we talk in Buddhism about going into other states of mind or jhanas,
Yep.
or whatever that is, bringing it kind of to this context, that's a different perspective.
Yep.
So when we look at that city of immortality through our mental formation,
Yep.
delusional perspectives,
Yep.
that's probably what it looks like.
Yeah.
But when you look at something from a different perspective, I'm trying to put words on
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. It's hard, isn't it?
It's really hard.
Yep.
But I can only see what I can see from here. But
Yep.
when I'm there, it
Yep.
looks something different.
Something different.
It's like the idea that, and this is very lay person's terms of physics, that if there is 4 dimensions,
Yep.
from 4 dimensions it's different than from 3 dimensions.
Yep.
But from 3 dimensions it will look chaotic. But if I'm in a 4th dimension, that
Yep.
might make a lot of sense.
Yeah. So it could be representing something along the lines of like, will we generally, so just for the people that are online, if they didn't hear that, and just correct me if I'm wrong in this, whether, in some way, like the way that we perceive existence in, we sort of see things in a 3-dimensional space, but again, that's also filtered through this, filtered through from a Buddhist idea of like that we're filtered, looking at things through avidya or delusion in this way, and it's actually not, the way that we're seeing things is not making sense. But if we have we look at it from like another perspective, this elevated perspective in some way, it actually might make some kind of sense if we look at it from another perspective. But because our mind is deluded in this way, that it doesn't make sense. Is that kind of a decent enough summary of it? Yeah. Anyone else have any ideas? Yeah. Yep.
Well, I was thinking that when you live your life, you might think, you might think about samsara and think maybe next life will be great.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone thinks that.
The city of immortality,
Yep.
and it's clearly the future lives not good
Yeah.
because they become listless.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
They've experienced everything, nothing interesting.
Yeah. 100%.
And our lives could be like that in the future.
Yeah, well, I think so just for people online, so the idea is like, well, if you are immortal, and it's like, we most of us think our next life is going to be great. And it's like, cool, I'm building lots of good karma and I'm going to have a good next life. Like, hey, you don't really know. You're probably going to do the same thing. It's probably going to be the same. That's terrifying. Like that should be terrifying. And so we have this idea that it will get better, that it will be better in some kind of way, but it'll probably just be kind of more of the same thing. And again, if we're immortal in this way, like it's all just the same. It's all just the same. It's so that there's, and again, this is what the Buddha kind of warned us against. Like that it's a cycle. It's all just the same stuff. And so, yeah, there's that kind of that kind of idea that it's like we want it to be better, but we're just going to do the same thing again. So for me, that's terrifying. And I think there's that nice idea there of like, if we think about like infinite, we think about infinity and infinite lives in this kind of way. This is why the Buddha says that like it's terrifying. It loses all meaning. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Your life means something to you now because it seems finite. Yeah. You know, the relationships that you have now, like it's the relationships and the things that you do, kind of mean something is because it will end. It will end, and something will be different. I'll go through a different state, and it will kind of mean something. But if you're immortal and you have limitless lives, it kind of means nothing. It means nothing anymore. It's just the same stuff over and over and over and over again. So again, I think this should be terrifying. But like another kind of idea that I wanted to think about with this as well is like, well, okay, we're just recurring over and over and over. This is, for me, this is something that the example that I kind of think of, like, who can remember every cup of coffee that you've ever had? No. Like, I've had lots of, like, I like really good coffee, and like, so it's like, this coffee's great, and it's like, oh, this one's not so good. It's like, but I can't really remember them all. When you think about the coffee that you've drunk, like, does anything stand out, or does it all kind of blur together? Everything kind of blurs together, yeah? And so I think there's that kind of this idea about how everything like if you have infinite, like, again, because I drink multiple cups of coffee every day, it all just blurs. I can't really remember the coffee. So what do we kind of think about this idea of if we lead elongated, like limitless existences, what does that do to our memory? What does that do to our memory now? Sorry? It's all blurred, yeah. What else? It's fading. Yeah, we just forget. You forget everything. Again, like in the story, it's like he can't really remember what side of the war he was on. Like you just kind of forget. So it's like, and this, anybody else kind of like, had fights with people? You think back to fights you had when you were like, I don't know, 20 years old or something with people. Like, do you really remember what it was about? No. Who won? I don't know. Who lost? I don't know. What side? What was I arguing for? Like I don't know. So I think there's this kind of idea with it, like an eternal recursion as well. Is like we'll just forget. Everything just gets blurred together. And so if we think about that from like a like multi-life perspective, it's like we're going to forget. You forget again, infinite possibilities of lives. You forget that you're a Brahma. Infinite possibility of lives. You forget that you are a prince or a king or a queen. You just kind of forget all this stuff because it all blurs together. Again, we don't have to think about this we can think about this in terms of multiple lives, but we can think about this in our own lives as well. Like with the coffee or the arguments and all these things. We don't really know anymore. So, there's that idea. There's that so what's one of the things that like people usually push back against when Buddhists when we talk about like rebirth? So why can't you remember your past lives if they were there? Everybody asks this. If anyone that's not a Buddhist is like, well, you should be able to remember your past lives and, fine. But it's like, can you remember all the coffee that you've drunk? No, it all just kind of blurs together. So there's that, I think it's kind of like really interesting, this idea of like, if we do something enough times, we just forget. We just start forgetting things. And again, we start to forget things. And this keeps us trapped. We just do the same things over again. If we forget, for me, coffee is awesome. So I'm just going to like continue to drink. I'm going to continue to drink it every day because I kind of forget all the other coffee that's been. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, 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 yeah. So I agree with that in some kind of ways. Like you don't need to remember. You know, we don't kind of need to remember. We don't need to remember to have meaning. And actually, sometimes if we look at it from the other side, if we take the inverse of that, if we can remember everything, nothing has meaning as well, though. So say, for example, if you can remember absolutely everything that ever happened to you, you just kind of get stuck. It's too much information. Like it's too many things. If I remember every conversation that I have, but then I also get into this kind of other infinite loop of I'm just like remembering absolutely everything. So I can't do anything. I'm kind of stuck in this way as well. So yeah, so this idea, like we don't need to remember everything for things to have meaning. I kind of agree. I kind of agree with that. What I'd also, but you know, maybe what I'd sort of like build on that is like, if things are like constantly happening all the time in this infinite way, it does like erode their meaning in this kind of way. For me, at least that's the way I kind of think about it. It does like erode meaning of things if we're just doing it over and over and over and over and over again. So at least for me, that's kind of what I think about it, kind of thing. So yeah. Yep. Babaya. Yep. Yep.
I've just started, and he says something about that the concept of emptiness
Mm.
can, if you're not careful, it can go into a lack of meaning.
Yep.
Or it can lead you to a sense of freedom.
Yep.
And again, I'm really a beginner in
Yeah. Yeah.
these terms, but I'm wondering if going down this track is a bit, one has to be a bit careful of
Yep.
emptiness
Yeah. Yeah.
and impermanence
Yep.
not leading to the lack of meaning, because the Buddha and Buddhism, whether there really was a Buddha, I
Yep.
don't know, but
Yep.
the idea is to lead us to a sense of freedom and lightness
Yep.
and less suffering.
Yep.
That's always been the idea. So if we go down that track and it leads us to more suffering,
Yep.
then it defeats the purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously, yeah, we have to be careful with it. So the comment is something along the lines of like we have to be careful with these things of thinking about like beginningless, endless time, all these things that basically it erodes things of meaning. And also we have to be careful about something like that in terms of like when we're practicing Dhamma as well. If we think about samsara, like it's all massive. It's actually then it all becomes kind of meaningless. We can kind of also fall into a kind of nihilism about things. And that's, you know, that does happen. And so, yeah, that is something that we have to be careful about. And I think, so this kind of like bringing it back into the story, again, so the troglodytes, they've done everything before and they've kind of slipped into like an existential nihilism of like not moving or not doing anything. But what wakes them up is the possibility that they can be mortal. That's actually now motivates them to do something. And again, there's so many ways to interpret this, but like you can think about this as like, this is what Nibbana could be. Like it's the end of this thing. It's the end of this it's the end of this kind of immortality in this way. So there is something there to move towards, and you asked about emptiness as well. And you know, there's this idea like with Nibbana that it is the ultimate kind of freedom in that way. And so, you know, we obviously need to be careful about like balancing these things up of like, well, samsaric existence and Nibbana in this way. So, you know, yeah, we have to be careful of not to get too kind of defeatist with these things. We don't want to turn into the troglodytes. We don't want to turn like the troglodytes, like they lie in the desert. Like there was another one that was like fell into a hole and none of them did anything to get him out. But they also, like the one that was in the hole, he didn't care, he was in the hole. So again, that's a kind of nihilism. It's a kind of nihilism. But what kind of wakes them up is this idea is like, this can end. There's a way out of this. And this is what I think kind of from this Buddhist perspective, like what Nibbana actually is. There's this way out. And so we should be kind of careful of like not falling into the like being a troglodyte in this kind of way. But we should be kind of going, well, there's a way out of this. I'm not sure if that exactly answers the question, but yeah. So I guess, you know, another kind of question I wanted to pose to everyone as well is like, so there's this really cool idea in this story as well of like that infinite lives, infinite possibilities of infinite things, we become everyone as well. At some point, and you know, at some point you become Homer. At some point you have to write the Iliad. And so what does this kind of mean for identity? What does this mean about a fixed sense of me, a fixed identity in this? Anyone have any thoughts on this? I have a lot, but yeah. Yeah? A social convenience? Why do you say it's just a social convenience? Yeah, you don't need it when you're on your own, but you don't feel like you don't still feel like an individual perceiving existence? Yep. So yeah, the sense of being a me is an illusion. Anyone else have any idea? Yeah, anatta. Yeah. What would it mean? Yeah. Yeah. So what does that kind of mean? We are everything, but then we're nothing. What does that mean? Yeah. So if I could kind of expand on that, is like if we become everything, then there isn't actually like a real thing to that. If we become everything, there is no one thing that we are. It becomes everything. So if it becomes everything, then it's kind of like nothing as well. So that kind of idea. And so what do we think about that? Like if we lead infinite lives, what does that do to our identity? Yeah.
I reckon it's good because if we
Samsara is good. Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
then we're going to be altruistic.
Yep.
We're going to let go of our ego.
Yep.
So therefore, by being at one with everything,
Yep.
we can become alive.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a cool idea. So if we're aware of absolutely everything, if we're aware, and when we are become everything, actually there might be a kind of altruism that comes out of that. Or a sense of connection with everything that comes out of that. And so therefore we might be more kind, more to other beings and all these kinds of things. I think that's a lovely idea. I'm not sure about the kind of validity of it though, because so again, if we take this idea of like that I live every life and I do every possible thing, what this also entails is that you do every good thing, but you also end up doing every bad thing as well. Like, so everything that is good and altruistic, you've done it before. Everything that's bad and heinous, you've also done it before as well. So, and like, I can't find the passage, but it's, yeah, so Borges like toys with this idea as well, is that like, if you have infinite lives, you've done everything good, you've done everything bad. And again, we can think about this as like if we take samsara seriously, yeah, we've done everything. At some point throughout your kind of existence, you know, you've done everything. Like you've been a Hitler, you've been a tyrant, you've been a warlord, you've been all these different kinds of things. You've also been a like Mother Teresa. You've done all these things before. You look really confused, which is like, yeah, which is, yeah, that's fine. Why do you think that that's so confusing? You right there. Yeah, you, yeah.
Sorry, I was just wondering what a Mother Teresa is.
Sorry? Oh, sorry. Mother Teresa was like somebody. She was in the what year? I think she died in the early 90s or something like that. Basically, she was like a Christian missionary, and she helped a lot of sick people in India. So she's usually seen as somebody that is really kind of saintly in this kind of way. So there's this kind of idea that we've done like everything good and everything bad, and each one of us have like done this thing. So, yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yep. 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 Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yep. 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 Yeah, yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, 100%. Yep. Mm. Yeah, yeah. Yep. 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 Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yep. Mm. 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 Yep. Yep. Mm. Mm. Yep. 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 Nice. Just quickly while I'm thinking about it, if there's anybody online that has like questions and wants to jump in and like ask something, like just wave at me, or I'm just going to keep going about immortality and all these kinds of. Is there anything online?
You sort of talked about this already, Ajahn, but just I might link two things together here.
Yep.
So can we say that after experiencing all the doors of experience,
Yep.
that all experience leads us nowhere except into emptiness? And I might link that to how do I then not fall into nihilism?
Yeah, yeah. So yes, so yeah, it could kind of like it's again this labyrinth that's under the city of the immortals. Like maybe it leads nowhere. And like, well, so how do we stop falling into nihilism? Kind of thinking about this, and as you were saying, Dr. Jaya, is like this everything is there kind of thing, and we become everything. So how do we like not fall into nihilism? And it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I really don't. I don't know how to not fall into nihilism with these kinds of things. It's like, so yeah, I really don't know. Obviously, if we think about this kind of thing where it's like, and you were kind of saying something like this, Dr. Jaya, like we should actually see that this is like kind of meaningless. Like we should have a little bit of nihilism there to some extent, I think. We should have a little bit there to kind of realize the danger of this thing. Realize why it's like, well, actually this thing, if we're taking it seriously, like it's like infinite recursion. It's all just the same stuff over and over and over and over again. There should be a way out. And this is where, again, with the idea about the river of mortality, that, actually there is a way out. And this is the thing, again, this is the thing that motivated the troglodytes to everybody. Like, again, they're all just like stuck in the desert, didn't do anything. This is the thing that motivated them to get out of this thing. So I think like there has to be a kind of nihilism there of like knowing that like that this is in some way is like how existence is. It's recursive in this way. So we should be kind of bored of it. We should be kind of like over it. We should be kind of like worried about like doing it again over and over again. Like if it's like, well, I continually fight with my spouse, And it's like, you should be like, if you're arguing with your spouse every day, you should get bored of it. You should get nihilistic about arguing with your spouse every day. And you should go, there has to be a way out of this. So I think like it's important, like, because we usually go, nihilism, it's bad, don't do it. Actually, you should be a little bit nihilistic about this stuff, at least in my view, because at least for me, it becomes a motivation. It becomes a motivation to move out of this thing. And again, I think in that story, it's like that motivation of like that there is a way out of immortality through this stream. That's what motivated them to act. And so if we think about this from the Buddhist perspective, like, well, there is, if we're taking this idea of samsara seriously, that there is a way out of it. Like again, this, and Dr. Jay was saying, like the four noble truths, understanding this, following the Eightfold Path. This is actually the way out of this thing. So yeah, it's how do we not be nihilistic? It's like I don't know, because I am nihilistic. So it's hard for me to get out of it. But I think we also still have to have that kind of motivation there to actually like to get out of this thing, and that it is possible to get out of it. You got a question? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was following the story really closely.
Yep.
At the moment that the person saw a light.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
That's when that person
Yep.
should have been focusing on the light and not the destination.
Yep.
And just kept focusing on the light. That's what got me hung up.
Yep.
You saw the light.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You should be focusing on going towards the light more than being attached to your destination.
Yep.
What you were hoping for, like immortality or this
Yep.
goal. So focusing on the light, and when you didn't see the light anymore,
Yep.
then you should have been looking for the light again.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was. That's what I got out of the story.
It's a cool idea. Yeah. It's a. Yep. 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 So I like this idea. I really do like this idea of like, well, actually, again, he's in this dark, again, at that time, he's in this dark labyrinth under the ground, like doors leading nowhere. It's a labyrinth. It's kind of, dark. Then he sees the light. It's like, yeah, go towards the light. Yeah, for sure. But the thing. Yeah. And so so I like that idea. I really do like that idea. It's like, again, yeah. And if we think about that from a perspective of our practices, like, okay, yeah, we're in this kind of like dark labyrinth of the mind and all these kinds of things. It's like, actually, there's a way out. We see a light and there's a way out of this thing. We can see the light as like liberation, freedom, all these kinds of things. The pernicious thing about this story, though, is the light actually leads him into the city of immortals. That is chaos. That is just like absolute kind of chaos in this way. I think so. Like, because yeah. It's like there's probably something there if we take that metaphorically. The light is gone. We thought the thing was going to be better, and it's not that thing. So there's got to be another light in some way. So again, if we think about this as a kind of like meditative journey in this kind of way, we might be, say for example, and again, I'm spitballing here. We might be going through our practice. Our practice doesn't seem like it's getting somewhere, and we kind of see the light or something in our practice, in our mind, and we want to move towards it, but then maybe it's not really the thing that we thought it was. Actually, we kind of need to like look deeper with this. So yeah, I like that idea. Yeah. Somebody else had their hand up as well. Yeah.
My experience of reading Borges is that he takes you into a really dark space and leaves you there. He's very clever. I like his writing style, but he depicts a lot of ugliness, like the really ugly side of human life. Knife fights, people getting their throats slit and having to run a race, stories. Really ugly, but done with a lot of ability. He's a great writer.
Sure.
But really, he talks about ugliness a lot.
Yeah.
So, I don't like his attitude, basically.
And that's fine. Like, so there's that element there where it's like, it can be bleak. it kind of like if you kind of read Borges seriously, it's like in some way it is like kind of bleak in this way. Again, the City of Immortals is like, you know, that immortality seems like something that is fantastic. It's like, well, actually, it's a very, very bleak thing. Likewise, he has another story about I think it's called Funes, somebody that can remember everything, and it's kind of it's bleak. The Library of Babel and all these kinds of books, all these kinds of things. In some way, this infinity is bleak. So, like I kind of agree. I kind of agree in that kind of way that it has a bleakness.
I think he misses the point. You know, like immortality, there's like a fundamental truth and a relative truth.
Yep.
Like the individual is a relative reality, but fundamentally we're made of elements which will always exist and will always be there.
Yep.
So on that level, there is that immortality.
Yep.
And also the Buddhists say the witness is immortal.
Yep.
So on that level, there is immortality, but the individual, the ego, is just a temporary phenomenon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why get hung up about it?
Yeah. And so just to because I love Borges so much, but I do think like there is like, you know, we're talking about the light before as well. And so if we think about, say, for example, in The Immortalist, like he actually, like it does make this turn at the end of that, like once we kind of realize that things are impermanent in this way. And again, he's back to being mortal again. Like everything becomes meaningful. Everything becomes meaningful in this way because like it is transient in this way. He now actually kind of realizes that, okay, if everything is transient in this way, everything now becomes meaningful in this way. And so say for example, the whole reason at least the way I interpret it, the whole reason like Rufus like wrote the story down is because he kind of realized that he was mortal. Again, he's back to now I'm going to die. So again, I know me writing the story, that doesn't kind of really change anything, but now it actually has meaning. I do it now because it's impermanent. So yeah, there's a bleakness. There is a bleakness there, but I also think in a lot of Borges' stories as well, like he does make a turn to hope of like, even though we're faced with these like massive things, it's like we still have to act. It's still good for Homer to write the Iliad. Like it's still good, these things are, even though it's a kind of recursion of itself, even though it still needs to be done. So yeah, that's my defense of Borges. Is there anything else online as well?
Thank you, Ajahn. Wouldn't compassion be the only response to the misery of inevitable nihilism? And wouldn't that give you the motivation to find a way out? And I would like to link that to continuing positive karma, so based on past actions. Is that the way out? Basically?
Yeah. So we only have a few minutes, so I'll try to keep this kind of succinct. Is compassion, like seeing with compassion, the only way out? I wouldn't say the only way. I'd probably say it's one of those ways, because if we think about what compassion actually is, compassion is recognizing suffering, but also having a motivation to alleviate that suffering. So I think there's elements of compassion that would in some way motivate one to get out of this thing. It could work, but I'm not sure if it'd be the only thing. And again, I just kind of want to like flip back here. If we think about like infinite lives, infinite possibilities, even being compassionate and realizing that somebody is suffering, after a while it kind of like doesn't mean anything anymore, because it's like you just see beings are suffering over and over again. So I think that's compassion is probably hard to square with limitless time. I just think it's hard to square with that. Not to say that it's not useful. Yeah, for sure, it probably is. I'd say you could probably even say something like, the Buddha was compassionate that he actually got out of this thing and then realized that others were suffering, was motivated to help them in some way. So you could kind of say that, but then you can also, like, thinking about the Buddha, it's like he was also like not motivated to teach as well. It's like, this is beings are just like suffering endlessly. It's like, what am I going to do about it? So I think that there is an element of there of compassion that probably could help, but I'm not sure it's the only thing that would help. And the other idea about, well, okay, so we're kind of stuck with this. We're kind of stuck with this kind of infinite lives, infinite possibilities. So isn't the idea is like we should make good karma? And that's the, again, the question before about how do we like not fall into nihilism? Yeah, we just have to, we're stuck in this thing, so we have to act in this way where we're building good karma. And again, like, so for example, like with the Borges story, it's like, even though you know it's a kind of recursion, you still have to like do something good in this way. Do something good. And so he wrote the story down, and he actually kind of like started to move out of it. So I think, there's that element, again, if we take the Buddhist perspective of like samsara is beginningless, endless, infinite, all these kinds of things, but that there is like a way, there is this kind of way out. We can get out, and that way out is nibbana. It's like, yeah, we should be kind of motivated to build the kind of karma that would get us out. We don't know. Again, taking that idea seriously of like, if we've had infinite lives, we've done everything that's infinitely bad, and we've done everything that's infinitely good. So like, well, what kind of choice do we have now? Do I continue to do things that are bad? Or do I actually like try to choose now that I know that there is a way out, how do I get out of it? How do I get out? I get out of it, I think, by building good karma and practicing the Eightfold Path in this way. So yeah, again, we're stuck with the possibility of infinite lives. It's like, so the only thing that you can do, again, you can be nihilistic and go, throw your hands up, or you can try to find your way out. Again, like the immortals, it's like if there's a river that gives immortality, but that immortality, all that does is just lead to meaningless recursion. There has to be a river in the world that actually finishes, that actually gives mortality, that is a way out. So we have to find it. And so the only way to do that is actually to go out and try to find the thing, try to find that river. And so, yeah, that's, I think, building good karma, that's the only thing we got. So we've got to go and do it. So with that, I'll call it a day there. So fun, at least for me, fun discussions. So I'm not sure if it was fun for you, but I had a good time. So
thank you, Ajahn. So we have some announcements before we finish up. First one is an announcement for a caretaker at the SOS Retreat Centre. They're in urgent need of a caretaker in Newbury and are seeking a lay volunteer resident who can commit to 3 months or more. If you're interested or would like to inquire further, please refer to the newsletter for more information. I know for the online audience, we posted an email address in there, so if you're interested, you can send an email, or if you want more information. The next one is about memberships. Just a quick reminder to everyone that changes to memberships that were passed at our AGM in April will take effect on the 1st of July 2026. This includes increases to membership pricing. So if you're thinking about membership, you might want to get in before the price increases. If you're not familiar with the changes to membership, please see one of the committee members for more details. Just on that quickly, I forgot to announce, so I've just joined the committee recently, so as a representative of the online community. So if anyone's got any ideas or questions about the online community, I'm happy to have a discussion after this. Next announcement, upcoming retreat. We're actually with Ajahn Sādaro at Newbury on the King's Birthday long weekend, June the 5th to the 8th. There's a waiting list for in-person attendance at the moment. It's still open, but online participation is open, so you can register for that as well. You'd see the website for more information about that. And this week's teaching program. So we have Monday night meditation with Ajahn Sādaro again. You're doing everything at the moment, Ajahn.
I lead infinite lives.
Yeah. Yes. And just a reminder about the New Day, New Mind meditation. That's a daily meditation group that you can join anytime between 4 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. on the BSV Discord channel. And at Newbury, there's a monthly community meditation. Now, it's got Saturday the 11th of May on here, which I think has already passed, unless I'm mistaken. So next week's teaching program, next Sunday is Ajahn Brahm. We'll be doing the Dhamma teaching, and also that he'll be doing the Monday night meditation. And lunch dana offering and communal lunch invitation. So yeah, just for today. So you're welcome to join us for Pindapat and a communal lunch next door at 11 a.m. So in about 10 minutes time, 10 or 15 minutes. Yeah, you can join us over there. And I think that's it. Is there anything else? No? Oh, I didn't miss anything.
Well
Thank
done.
you. So thank you again, Ajahn,
That's
and
right.
thank you everyone for coming along. And please come next door and join us.
Perfect. We'll pay respect to Buddha Dhamma Sangha if anybody wants, and yeah, as Luke said, then we can meet over next door. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Soakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Okay, very good. I'll see you all over for some lunch. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Thanks.